It is that time of year. It's a great time of year because we're about to get the NFL preseason's over. Thank goodness. We've got college football is having week 1 this year. We kick off that season. Unfortunately, this time of year also can bring up some traumatic experiences for a lot of people. I think for you and I included in this one. Sometimes athletes get compared to veterans. Like veterans, they go and they go to war, they go to battle, and when they're done with their service, serving our country, they struggle with what to do with the next phase of life. I think that's very similar with professional athletes. And now nowhere near the seriousness of PTSD that the veterans deal with, having come back from war. There are some things that have been pretty traumatic for athletes, and one of those is dealing with cut day. When you are trying to make a roster and you're going out there every single day, and oftentimes since January, like you sign with a team as soon as the season is over, and you're spending all off season trying to get acclimated, making new friends. Sometimes you rent an apartment to try to find a place to live, and your whole goal is just to make the final roster. And this time of year is when you have final roster cuts, where if you've been lucky enough to make it at this point, you've made it pretty good. Like you've made it past a couple cuts, and you're right on that bubble of making an NFL roster. But unfortunately, that dream comes crashing to a close for a lot of people on those final roster cuts. I've been on both sides of them. I've had the sigh of relief where all of a sudden I didn't get that call. I didn't get the, hey, bring your playbook to the coach's office. But I absolutely have been on that side as well. And it is one of those moments that is life-defining when you think about what it means potentially for your future as a professional athlete or potentially the end of being a professional athlete. It can be extremely traumatic for a lot of players.
Yeah, camp is a super, super stressful, trying time for some. Like it's a matter of what group you fall into, right? I know there was a time in your career where you're starting Q, and I know at that point you're fresh out the draft, things are looking beautiful, you got a couple years of buffer, and you're going to make the team. Guy like me at the bottom of the roster, I think about it in hindsight, and I'm saying, once I inevitably got let go, it's a matter of I think back on my experience, and everyone's like, how cool was it to be in the league? And I was like, I woke up every day insecure about my position. Was today going to be the day that I went home? I really didn't enjoy it a ton. Like, there were great parts of it. Don't get me wrong. When you're out there and you're playing ball, it's phenomenal. But all the time you have to think about your playbook, think about watching film, think of everything. There was definitely stressful parts of it. And for 1,000+ guys over the next 24 hours, I think the worst part about it is you don't know it's your last day. You know what I mean? That's the worst part of it. There's no clear. For a lot of people, you wake up today a football player and you go to sleep tomorrow and you're done. You'll never put pads on again. Something you've been doing since you're 5 years old.
Also, the money is life-changing. You're going from potentially, I don't know what league minimum was when you were fighting to make a roster. Really?
Yes.
That's pretty. I mean, I'm older than you. It was only 131 my rookie year, and that was what I made for my rookie contract.
Right.
But the money potentially is life-changing, and that opportunity. I always thought it was way more stressful being a bubble player on the roster, not knowing your future. Am I going to make the team? Than being an NFL franchise quarterback with hundreds of millions in the bank from guaranteed money. Because that's a stress. There's a stress on being a franchise NFL quarterback. Sure. You're going to take heat. You're going to get criticism from the media. You'll have people calling you out. You might get booed in the crowd. But there is no stress like not knowing financially what your future holds. Like, am I going to be able to put food on my table? Am I going to have to go get a 9-to-5 job when my career is done? If I don't make this roster, it's going to get real in a hurry. Where if you're a franchise quarterback, so you get benched. So what? You've got millions and millions of dollars in the bank already. So I always appreciated the stress and the pressure that bubble players were on, more so than I feel any sort of like empathy for starting quarterbacks when they get benched or they get booed. I feel way more empathy for players that are on that bubble spot trying to make a spot.
Well, it's certainly a different kind of stress. I mean, as somebody who didn't get to that second contract, what's the phrase they say? What's the phrase they say about all your money being fixed, all your problems being fixed? Money can't fix everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's a lot easier said when you're the franchise quarterback with 150 in the bank. I think about at that time, the problems that I had came from where's my next check coming from? How am I going to buy a home? What am I going to do when I get back? So you're 100% right about that. The definitely different stresses. Being the guy who's been on the bubble, I can tell you, man, I do. I thought it would be much more enjoyable. It wasn't, man. It was a tough day. It was a real tough day.
When you got cut, was it the stereotypical coach wants to see you?
No, mine was tough. Mine was tough because I got nothing but good feedback. I got good feedback from the games. I got good feedback from the coaches. They told me stuff like, be ready. We could call you in a week to get you on practice squad if you get through. So I didn't, I felt decent coming out of it. It broke my heart that I wasn't going to be there because I put in all the work. But I felt confident, like there would be another shot. And inevitably, I got a shot with Carolina. Then my leg broke. But, I mean.
That kind of derails things.
Yeah, that's going to do it. But, but I mean, it wasn't one of those, like, where you've seen ones on Hard Knocks where they're basically come right out and they're like, you didn't do it. They're cutthroat. It's heartless. But I didn't have that experience. Everyone was very kind to me. They told me good things, and I thought I would get another shot. That was probably the hardest part.
It doesn't make it any easier when they are nice. Ben DiNucci, who's been a journeyman quarterback in the NFL, had a tweet up that went viral over the weekend because he had that conversation with the Falcons. He was trying to make their squad, and he said, not many beers better than the airport. I just got cut from the NFL for the 7th time beer. Trust me, you wouldn't understand. I think he's talking to a couple guys that could. I have been in that airport situation before. Now, one wasn't from a cut. I went to a workout with the Houston Texans.
Okay.
And I thought I had a great workout, thought I had a great chance to make the team. And they were like, yeah, thanks. We'll be in touch. Because they're going to sign you right away.
Yeah.
Because they need to get you into practice, to get the playbook. So I kind of knew what was happening. I remember being in an airport, flying home depressed. It was probably my 4th or 5th workout that offseason alone. And I didn't get signed. And I was like, oh, man. I think I had a margarita, though, was my drink of choice at the airport after I got cut that time. But it is absolutely a place the players can be relatable in. I was cut twice by the Denver Broncos. The first time I was cut by them, I'd been out of the NFL for 2 years, and because I'd played 5 years, and then I was out for 2 years, played arena football, played some minor league baseball, and Denver gave me an opportunity. I sent out letters to every team in the NFL, and I sent them a VCR, like a VHS tape of highlights, and said, I'm just looking for an opportunity to get back in the league. Can you give me a chance? The Denver Broncos were the only team that gave me that chance. Gary Kubiak called me up, and he said, hey, so we got 4 guys on the roster. He said, you'll be the 5th. He goes, but I'll give you a chance. And I was like, sweet. Got on the plane, got signed, got into camp, started at 5th, worked my way up. I was at 3rd. I made it all the way up to 3rd, which is great.
Which is on
you're
the team.
thinking you're great. One problem. I get the call. Coach wants to see you in the office. And I'm thinking I'm the 3rd guy. Mike Shanahan sat me down and he said, you know what? He said, the NFL is a numbers game. It's like where everyone's trying to find an edge. How do we have an advantage? Because we think we're going to have an advantage by going with 2 quarterbacks on the roster, which has become trendy in the recent, like in the past 15 years. I was one of the first. I was like, great, you're making history using me as the guy to try it out with. And he gave me stats. He said over the past 20 years, the emergency quarterback has only been used twice. He's like, we're willing to take that risk. He goes, but I want you to stay in shape. So I did that, went home to Florida, was kind of depressed, kept working out though. 3 weeks later, Jake Plummer got hurt. They gave me a call. At halftime of the game, he got hurt. I'm sitting there watching him play the Chargers on TV, rooting for my old buddies, watching the game, see him go down. I'm like, I wonder if I'll get a call. I thought it might come Monday morning. It was halftime of the game. Get a call, and they're like, are you ready to come back? I was like, yep, I'm ready to go.
Well, think about how vital, we talked about it last week, think about how vital your position is, where it became trendy to do 2 quarterbacks, and then the Eagles played the 49ers in the playoffs, and Christian McCaffrey is your second half quarterback. It'll bomb network ratings. It is not, fan friendly. So now they've made it where every team has that opportunity to sign that 3rd quarterback and leave him off the roster, to the point where a guy like Josh McCown was coaching high school, never at the building, and he was still getting a paycheck because he was that emergency quarterback that they can bring in at any time.
It's wild. It's a wild experience. Terry Crews, who you know from, what's the name of the show? America's Got Talent.
I remember from Everybody Hates Chris. He was the dad.
Wasn't he also the Old Spice guy with the commercials?
Oh, he's definitely been.
He's been around.
I think everything he does, it's part of his contract that he's got to make his pecs pop.
Yes,
so he's in something, and he's doing the robot and everything.
He tried to make an NFL roster. He was in the NFL for a little bit. He talked about his experience getting cut.
We go to practice. I practice all day. My wife, while I'm in practice, she checking my kids into school because we had to wait until I found out if I made the team. Right? I'm so happy we made it. I go to practice. I go home. I'm tired. I come home. And they say, hey, man, come back up to Redskin Park and bring your playbook. wait, I had signed my kids in the school. I said, wait, but I
Man, that's another mental mind, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
That they can get you. And if you don't have enough years in the NFL, you can be a week-to-week player.
Yeah, 100%.
They don't have to keep you the whole season. Now, later in your series, you get to be a vested veteran. If they cut you, you're still getting paid for the season.
Sure.
As long as you're on that week 1 roster. We had a guy in training camp, was a tight end when I was on the Broncos, and he thought he made the squad. And he went out, he brought a really sweet ride. And he even had the license plate in the back. It said like TD 88, like whatever his number was, touchdown 88. And he didn't even make it to the second week of the season.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of like, man, guys were kind of making fun of him. But I felt awful for him.
Sure.
Because those car payments probably got a lot more stressful for that type of player. That's the other kind of thing people don't realize sometimes for the younger players.
Right.
You might make this roster. It doesn't mean you're making the week 3 or 4 roster either.
Right. Well, what happens now today into tomorrow or tomorrow into the next day is the waiver wire. So everybody will be put on waivers and then guys will be getting cut from other teams. So you almost can't even celebrate the biggest milestone of your life. Like a guy like me who would have made the team, get super pumped, and then a better receiver who might have better film than me or fit a team's needs will get cut from their team and replace me in the next day. So you almost can't even enjoy that. That's what's so crazy about the NFL, though. That's what makes it beautiful and what makes it so difficult is the contracts, right? Because in every other sport, you put pen to paper, you're getting paid, right? In our league, it's not like that, man. You sign a deal and it might as well be on toilet paper because they can, guys like, those bottom of the roster guys, they churn them over every week and they can let you go. There's some guys, I remember guys from the Patriots for a bunch of years who they have 25 transactions in a year. He's signed to the practice squad. He goes from the practice squad to the active roster. He's released. The next day, he's signed again to the practice squad. Then they bring him up for a week, and then they release him again. And then another team signs him, and then they release him. I remember a guy named Ross Ventrone, 43, I think, transactions in 1 year. It was crazy.
Jeez.
But it's so hard to get a sense of comfort like that, and that's
Right.
I think that's what they want in the league, and that's what keeps the level of play so high is you get comfortable, you're out quick.
Yep. That's
It's
why my
dangerous.
advice to young players is rent, don't buy. You don't want to get stuck
Yes,
into
for
a
sure.
30-year mortgage.
Absolutely.
Make
Yes.
sure you rent, don't
Yes,
buy.
for sure.